Sup, gamers? So, RKO Pictures. What is it? Well, RKO Pictures is a studio that used to be very prevalent in the golden age of Hollywood. It was considered one of the big five. On October 23rd, 1928, a business formation between Keith Abley Orff Theater chain, known as KAO, and Joseph P. Kennedy's film booking office, FBO, of America under the Radio Corporation of America, RCA. Together, these corporations and people made RKO Studios.
At first, RKO began production in a small facility shared by FBO and PATH in New York City. Using some of the same staff members from its other joint companies like FBO, the company had a lot of off-stock to put to it. RKO was largely controlled by Ted Hardy, but it had multiple people in charge over the years, like Howard Huey and many others in charge of production, like William LeBron, David O. Scheitznick, and William C. Cooper. RKO's first release were two musicals. Syncopation premiered on March 29th, 1929. And Street Girl premiered July 30 of the same year. These were the first official productions and the first to be shot in Hollywood. Its films were also shown in theater chains owned by KAO and FBO. So the films guaranteed to see an audience. That's it.
Now, RKO's first major success was Rio Riva, which RKO spent a lot of money into it, using techno-color sequences in the film. Premiering on September 15, 1929, it received raving reviews, named one of the top 10 best pictures of the year by Film Daily. Historians marked this the first age of the film Broadway musical. Due to the success, RKO was able to acquire 500 acres onto their lot to film. RKO produced more expensive musicals using technicolor sequences. RKO continued making popular movies, some of which being regarded as classics to cinema.
So, RKO was responsible for A Wonderful Life, premiering in December 20th, 1946, regarded as a Christmas classic. Starring James Stewart, Carolyn Grimes, and Virginia Patton, and of course Jimmy Hawkins, the film made $3.3 million to the box office success, and is thought as the greatest Christmas movie ever, established in the minds of generations onward. Fun fact! There was a controversy with the film when it came out. The FBI, for some reason, suspected that the film to be communist propaganda, and I quote, "The movie deliberately mangled the upper class, attempting to show the people who had money were mean and despicable characters." However, there was another film RKO made that is commonly regarded as the best films of all time, usually by old people and film teachers. Citizen Kane. Released in May 1st, 1941, it was the pioneer in film techniques and angles. It pushed forward what films can do and show today, and is acknowledged for it. On its first release, it failed at the box office, and it didn't make up back its budget. However, due to public acknowledgement for it, it got reruns. When it was re-released, it made $1.8 million. It also starred one of RKO's most famous stars, Orson Welles. But we won't talk about him. We'll talk about him later with the other stars. So these films are probably the most popular of RKO's catalog and were made at the height of their production. But there are some other films we'd like to give some special notion to.
Monkey! Monkey! King Kong was originally a novel written in 1932 by Dallas L.W. Lovelace, requested by Marion C. Cooper to act as a promotional for his upcoming film King Kong. The film itself was released on March 2nd, 1933, to critical acclaim. The King Kong quickly became one of the most famous, historically and culturally important films of the time. In fact, fun fact, a sequel to King Kong was made the same year as the original, Son of Kong, to ride on the hype train of the first film. While it made back its budget, many criticized as the cash grab to the hype train of the first film. While it made back its budget, Originally, King Kong was stained into pop culture from references to influencing other media. The stop-motion effects of the film were made by the stop-motion master Willis O'Brien, bringing in fantastical creatures to life not seen before, bringing scenes like a giant ape climbing the Empire State Building or fighting a dinosaur into reality. The film made $1.845 million on its original theater run and $4.444 million in total, counting all of its re-releases.
I like to spin. So, other films RKO made included A Thing from Another World, Jazz Heaven, The Cuckoos, and The Runaway Rise, The Fall Guy, Little Women, and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Fun fact! RKO distributed many Disney original animated films, so when you look up RKO films, you might find some of their original classics like Pinocchio, Dumbo, and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Good morning, everyone. Let's see here. Now, a film isn't much without its actors, and RKO had a lot of famous and successful actors. Example is Orson Welles, who we earlier mentioned being in Citizen Kane, as well as the magnificent Ambersons. Orson Welles went on in many other films, becoming a successful actor and well-renowned for his abilities. Fun fact, the last film Orson Welles was in before his death was the 1981 animated feature Transformers the Movie, which he voiced act the villain Unicorn. Other actors who played in RKO films include Ginger Roger, who played in Kitty Foyle, Fred Astra, who is regarded as the greatest dancer in the film history, and Boris Karloff, well known as the actor for Frankenstein's monsters in the Universal's Frankenstein, who was in the Body Snatcher, Isles of the Dead, and Belden.
RKO was very successful in the golden age of Hollywood. However, all good things must come to an end. In the 1950s, CEO of RKO, Hughes, became erratically focused on making deals rather than, films. Due to all this selling and reselling, the studio lost a lot of money. In 1954, Hughes tried to buy all of the outstanding stocks as a tax write-off. But this fell as Floyd Odeum purchased RKO and battled Hughes over control of the company up until 1955, where Hughes sold all interest to General Teleradio, a conglomerate of a rubber and tire company. Very odd. General Teleradio were only interested in the film catalog of RKO. They wanted to re-air these films as TV syndication fodder instead of continuing production operations. Eventually, RKO's output of films had fallen to just about a dozen films per year, contrast to the previous years where they have dozens and dozens of films in the 30s and 40s. By 1957, RKO's fate was clear, as roughly 750 film titles were sent to TV syndication, with many of their films being sold or leased to TV channels. By the same year, RKO was defunct as a production distribution entity, and later that year had its studio lots sold, which, they had bought early with their first success. Many of the company's assets were also sold, and they laid dormant for many, many years. Though, interestingly enough, it did contribute to some other projects, partnering with Universal to make some unknown film in the 80s, but more importantly, finally, in 1989, actors Ted Hartley and Dinah Merrill bought RKO and attempted to reactivate the studio by contracting remakes of RKO's classics, like, for example, Mighty Joe Young.
Ooh, monkey!
And the Ambersons, the one we mentioned earlier. While RKO endures, it isn't the mass media studio giant it was in the golden age of Hollywood, due to many mistakes by its owners. Gamers, we forgot to film this segment in the original video, so I'm filming it at my house, as you can see. So, what set RKO different from the other film studios is that at first they were basically the creators of the Broadway musical films, but later on they became very synonymous with their horror films. In fact, they had an entire horror film studio separate to make those types of films. They usually did a lot more, horror fantastical films that, like, for example, King Kong. Not a lot of people saw that. They also like to push the limits of films, like with Citizen Kane's, creating, new techniques and all to upgrade the art form. So that's basically it. Heading back to the original footage.
So that's a brief history of RKO Pictures. Starting in front as a joint venture, rising to the tops on the back of Broadway like musicals and instant classics, and its slight decline into B movies to reruns on TV. Due to mismanagement and conflicts in interest, RKO fell massively from grace as one of Big Five media giants of the golden age, but its movie will forever live on from its heights.
Yeah, that's the end of our presentation. It was hell to make due to this man making this man laugh.
I'm a monkey! Yes. Monkey!
Yes, he very much is. Anything you would like to say about this production? Sir, anything you would like to say about this production?
Monkey!
Well, I have something to say about this production. I hate it. Tuning out.
I love it.
Action.
Monkey!
King Kong was originally a novel written in 1932 by Dedalus L. Lovelace, requested by Marion C. Cooper to act as a promotion to his upcoming film, King Kong. The film itself was released on March 2nd, 1933, to critical... Okay, no. We got it, but
Action.
No, RKO's first major success was Rio Arriba, which RKO spent a lot of money into it, using Technicolor sequences in the film. Premiering on September 15th, 1929, it received raving reviews. No, RKO's first major success. Wow!
Don't look at me!
I'm not trying to! Wow.
John.
Howdy, folks. Alright, let's finish this thing up. So, that's a brief history of RKO Pictures, starting as a joint venture, rising to the tops. Oh my gosh, Ralph.
What? Action.
No, RKO's first major success was Rio Arriba, which RKO spent a lot of money into it, using Technicolor sequences in the film. Premiering on September 15th, 1929, it received raving reviews.
Action.
Monkey!
King Kong was originally a film written by... I can't read that. I can't...